Get ready for the Ocelli effect.
I'm a big fan of the show.
Chuck Ocelli, and he's been known for many years as a blind PFK researcher specializing in intelligence agency involvement in multiple assassination, propaganda, and other global criminal operations in the 20th and 21st centuries.
Your listeners are extremely fortunate to have you.
And now, the most underrated voice in all media.
Chuck Ocelli!
28th day of February 2020, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar, and this is the live show. Now, I have been off the past 2 days, but I had to address personal medical issues, so that's the way it went. Quite frankly, for those who might be aware of what it was going on, it is under control at this point, which is why I had to take 2 days off. But there's no way I could take tonight off. Friar's Day, yes, the last broadcast day of the week for the Ocelli effect, and of course, right after this, the Age of Transitions with Aaron Franzelaer and Uncle, the broadcast. But for now, I could not take Friday night off from the Ocelli effect, and why? Because I have Jordan Maxwell with me. And, you know, if I can breathe, I'm going to drag myself to the microphone to talk to this man. Why? Well, if you don't know who Jordan Maxwell is, first of all, you know, if you're hearing this on a podcast, pause it. Go to JordanMaxwellShow.com. Yes, indeed. You have to put all three of those words together. JordanMaxwellShow.com. Now, why do you need to go to that website? Because Jordan Maxwell is all over the internet. Well, because that's the only website that actually belongs to, is run by Jordan Maxwell himself. You want to email Jordan Maxwell? That's where you go. JordanMaxwellShow.com. You want to join the Research Society? You must go to JordanMaxwellShow.com, okay? You want to go over there and, make a donation to Jordan Maxwell and have it get to his pocket. Guess what? JordanMaxwellShow.com is the only place you go. That's it. That is Jordan's website. Other people have hijacked his name and all kinds of other fun stuff all over the internet. But that's his website. And I advise you to join the Research Society, which is a separate thing. It's, I think it's still like $30 lifetime. And you're in there, that's it. And there is even deeper information. There are articles, there are images, there are videos, there are links. There is a whole world of education that is being added to, continuously by the webmaster over there in the Jordan Maxwell Research Society. But there's other stuff over at JordanMaxwellShow.com, but enough of my mouth and about the website and everything else. How you doing, Jordan?
Well, I think okay. We'll find out soon enough.
Well, fair enough. Look, it is one of those strange days because it's just the times we live in, Jordan. I got to tell you. Now I wanted to get you on to promote a conference, but apparently you were just at a conference, so I'm a little late.
Just at it.
But
it was in Laughlin, Nevada.
Right, and this was
which
a
is
UFO.
About 60 to 70 miles south of Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I just got back, and it takes a lot out of me doing these conferences, but I got a Lifetime Achievement Award there, and it was really fun. I got to see all my friends, and I don't speak at shows anymore because I'm too tired and too old. And it just takes too much out of me. Mm. But I was happy I went to this one. Like I said, I got a Lifetime Achievement Award and got a chance to see all my friends. So it was nice.
Well, you deserve a couple of Lifetime Achievement Awards, Jordan. I'll tell you why. And I'm going to speak for you for a second, but just bear with me. The fact is that a lot of my philosophical standpoint has been formulated based on a lot of your work. Now, I'm not saying that I'm like an acolyte of yours, but a lot of my philosophical being is, partially reminiscent from what I've learned from you over the years. Now, I've only learned from you, I would say, over the past 20 years. But, you've been out educating people for more than a generation, more than 2 generations, in fact. Quite frankly, when we take a look at it, if you consider a generation being a 20-year time period, I mean, I got to you late 20 years ago. And you know, your way of looking at things, your way of examining things, your way of breaking a whole lot of stuff down, actually helped me to be much less angry and confused about some of the patterns that I saw, and especially when it comes to religion. That's why I'm very proud of the series that you and I did on dogmatic theology. And you know, that's in, you know, over 25 parts out there, depending on how you count them up. They're all available on YouTube, and out there for free, you know, as per usual, and as you requested, as we did it. You know, and I'm a very small part of your history, right? So, you know, the 50 hours we did there, summed up a lot of what I learned from you, for sure. But I'm not the only one. There's a lot of radio guys, a lot of writers, a lot of authors, a lot of people who have either ripped you off, been inspired by you, or you know, I mean, you're not my mentor, mind you, but I consider you a friend, and I consider you an inspiration. And I know that I am not alone in any way, shape, or form. So, quite frankly, you deserve a few of these Lifetime Achievement Awards from a bunch of organizations, and maybe for a couple of lifetimes, my friend. I'm sorry, but I felt like I needed to say that before we get any deeper, and I'd like to hear about this UFO conference that you went to. But I just wanted to let you know that you know, this is something that I think my listeners need to make sure they recognize, that some of the stuff that sounds a little similar to what Jordan says might be because it was inspired by him in the first place. Now, I did my own research and found that Jordan had already done the research, but there's always more. There's always more to learn, no matter how long you're at it, no matter how you do it, and what you have been or who you are. There's always more to learn, and I'm always grateful to learn from you and try and help others to learn for themselves, Jordan.
Well, I appreciate all that, and actually I've been doing what I do, talking to audiences and traveling around the world and trying to assist my fellow man and waking up to see all the wonderful, off-the-wall, strange truths that are out there. Things that are actually true that we've never been told before. And that's what I do. I love going into all the dark mysteries of life and all the strange things that are happening in the world that we have no explanation for. And who's doing what and how are they doing it, and how the world actually, in fact, works. And so many people just do not know how the world actually works. And because of that, we get in trouble. We get fined, tickets, and jail, and all kinds of problems in your life because you just don't know how the world is set up. Mm-hmm. And so I learned a long time ago from some of the great geniuses that I've been in the company of that have told me and showed me how the world really works.
Well, and, yeah, you know, and two of those guys, which we have discussed on this show, and I want to confirm this one more time for the listener. I mean, I know you know this, Jordan. You know your life story. But, you know, two of the most amazing individuals that have been in your company that I think are well beyond exemplary are as follows. Manly P. Hall was a friend. And so was Steve Allen. Now, a lot of people might not think that Steve Allen might be one of these guys you go to for intellect, but you've forgotten a great deal about the man who really originated the late night TV show concept. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. He was a major name with NBC. For many years, he's the one that came up with the idea for Saturday Night Live. He came up with the idea for the Tonight Show. And so when you're watching the Tonight Show, just remember it was Steve Allen who came up with the idea and was absolutely sensational guest. He was a sensational host on that show. He was funny, he was clever, resourceful, brilliant, and he kept everybody on the edge of their seat. And it was called the Tonight Show. We still have the Tonight Show on NBC. And not only that, but he was in motion pictures. He wrote like 28 books, large volumes on every subject you can imagine, from religion to law. government and secret societies. It was an incredible lifetime that he spent writing magnificent research material.
Plus
and he was an extraordinary, brilliant man. And I was really blessed to be in his company and be able to do shows at the universities and speak at colleges and universities with him.
He was also a talented.
I learned a lot from him.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. How could you not? He was also a talented musician and composer. People don't know that. It's one of those things that, is not brought up even when people do remember him nowadays, but, he published several tunes and a lot of them, complex things, like I said, compositions. Which
hundreds of them.
Hundreds, which are not easy to write. A composition, it's not plucking on your guitar and figuring out a couple of chords that sound good.
No.
It is something else. There is a serious superstructure to it, and there is a fine art to doing something that, again, it wasn't even the thing he was best known for at all. But he did it, and he played several instruments. Just saying, the guy was extremely talented, and that's one of the two guys. The other guy, Manly P. Hall, now, there might be even fewer people that have heard of Manly P. Hall, but if you could, give me a summation about this very, very fascinating character. I mean, to me, he's a character because I never met the man. But legendary, I know this, but, if you could give us a summation of that man, when you mentioned people that were in your company, I think you can't forget Manly P. Hall.
No, Manly P. Hall was one of the most extraordinary men I have ever had the honor of meeting and being a close friend and going to his home and being able to sit for hours on end and talking with him and listening to the brilliance of this extraordinary mind. He wrote, I don't know how many hundreds of pamphlets and booklets and books galore. He wrote so many books. I don't know. I think it was like 70 different books, something like that. 70 or 80 different filled books filled with knowledge of the ancient world, the prehistoric philosophies of the world that we live in. He was basically one of the world's greatest philosophers that ever lived, period, in any age ever. I have never heard of a man like him. There was nothing that he was not a master in. You pick a subject, some ancient philosophy, some religious belief system from the ancient and prehistoric world, and he would sit for hours and explain it to you in detail, where it came from, what it meant, what the words meant. And, you couldn't listen to him not know that you're in the presence of a master. And this guy was so incredibly smart and brilliant, and I have loved him because he was always giving you information you've never heard before about the world you live in. Mm-hmm. And he's very, very big out there now. If you want to hear what he can do, you go on you go on Google and go to YouTube and type in Manly, Manly, P, and then Hall, Hall, mm-hmm. Manly P. Hall, and listen to his lectures, and you tell me if just one of them is not so extraordinary, so impressive. Mm-hmm. And so I had the chance to be in his company and listen to all of his lectures and be taught by him. And my goodness, what an incredible, experience that was.
Right. He also amassed a tremendous library, in the pre-electronic age when you couldn't just fetch it, with a search engine, right? Right. He amassed a tremendous learning library. I think it's in California still, right?
Yeah, it's still in California. I don't know who controls it now, mm-hmm. who runs it, but it was taken over by people who wanted the money. They wanted his work. They wanted the material benefits from it. And there's too many people involved with his organization. We're not really up to the academic, value of what he was doing.
Right.
But they wanted his books, all the 80 books and all of his hundreds of booklets, all kinds of books and white papers and research papers that were published around the world, and they wanted all those for selling so they could make money off of him. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. So many people want to control the wealth of a brilliant person. Mm. And if they can't control the wealth, they can control the person themselves. They can lie about them, cheat them, get them to sign some paper, and now they own you. Right. And they can then make money off of you. And that's what Los Angeles is all about, unfortunately. That's why I had to leave Los Angeles. It became so corrupt and so evil. I had to get out of there just to save my life. Mm. And if you're going to Los Angeles to be a star, don't bother. Because it's the most corrupt place in the world is Los Angeles.
Yeah, I tried it in the 90s, Jordan.
Business there.
Yeah, I tried it in the 90s, Jordan, and I got to tell you, within 90 days... I said, there's no way I could take this. I couldn't stand, and I wasn't even aware of things that I am today. But I can tell you this much: the city of angels does not contain angels. Just saying. It doesn't.
Remember, the demons were angels too.
Ah. Well, what is the classic story, right? Lucifer was what? The most high of all angels.
That's right.
So you got to keep that in mind, and I think that's his city. Just saying. I'm not saying he founded it directly, but I think it's his city, Jordan. I got to tell you.
Oh, there's just no doubt in my mind about that. Mm-hmm. Because all over the world, Los Angeles, the home of Hollywood, entertainment, music, sex, drugs, and entertainment, and rock and roll. And believe me, Hollywood has just perverted the whole world, and we see so much propaganda coming out of Hollywood. We have no idea in the world how perverted and how corrupt the big major studios are. And I was there for 60 years. I lived there, right. And I was involved with Hollywood all the time. And I met everybody. It was anybody in Hollywood. I met them all. I've worked for a lot of the studios and the people there, especially the producers of television shows, the directors, the stars. I mean, I've got stories that will turn your hair white, the stuff I've seen happen in Los Angeles.
I know.
But I'm not there anymore, so I'm gone.
Well, you're still alive, too. That's the other thing. And I got to say, it's interesting because I've had conversations with you off the air, which I'm not going to reveal here or anywhere, but fact is, yeah, you've got some stories. But let's focus on the stuff we can talk about, right? This recent conference, first of all, I'm sorry I missed it. I would have loved to have helped you promote it and maybe get some more people there to know about it. But I was kind of unaware myself of when it was going to happen. I wanted to get you on the show before then to talk about it. But you also have other projects coming. So, by all means, let us know what you have coming up. And also if you want to just talk about how it was to receive that award, who gave it to you, how that whole process happened. And, you were glad to see your friends and everything, but I'm sure you also saw new faces, some young
and
people.
Also, I'm going to be I do a lot of video production right now because I can do that at home. Right. I'm too old to be traveling around and doing shows around the world anymore. I don't like flying. I definitely will never fly an airplane ever again. I don't trust them. I don't trust me traveling around the world. And I really don't trust the corrupt Marxist-Leninist communist system we live under. Mm-hmm. So that you have to you have to be in compliance with this and compliance with that, and you have to show this and show that and this information and that information, and take your shoes off and take your socks off so we can tell that you're not a terrorist. This lunacy that has gripped our country is beyond belief. So I don't travel anywhere. I stay in northern Arizona, up in the mountains outside of the city of Flagstaff, Arizona. And I stay in a really rural area. I mean, I have deer that I see them out my window of my office. I live in a very rural area, a lot of Native Americans around me. I don't like going anywhere today in the American public. I don't like going to see people in public. I don't like going to any big public arenas and big, shows or conferences because I don't like the way I'm treated as an American. And so that's why I stay home, but I produce videos and put them on the web.
Right.
And I've got a doozy coming. I've learned some information in the past month that I did not know and that really tied together for me all that I've been working on. I've been working on something for the past 50 years, a storyline that I've been wanting to put out into the public about who humans are, where we come from, and what's going on in the universe concerning us, we humans on the earth. And there is a magnificent, unbelievable story when you start listening to the experts and government at NASA and governmental research agencies and the FBI and CIA and NSA. When you start hearing what these people at the top already know and what they're working on and what they already know is happening, it's really an incredible story that how much we, the American people, do not know. And so that's what I'm working on. I'm working on a 2-hour, it's going to be a little over 2 hours, I think. I'm working on a 2-hour presentation that's going to be on a PowerPoint presentation with some of the most strangest pictures and documents you've ever heard in your life about the earth and where we came from and how things got started. I've got all the information because I've been doing that research on it for over 50 years, but I've finally found some information in the past month that just lit my brain up. When I heard this information, it tied together everything I've been talking about and proved beyond a doubt I was right all along. So I want to put together a video, and when I do, I want to do a show with you to promote it. It's got to be at least 2 hours of mind-boggling facts about the world you live in.
Well, with that video, you're going to have to get into NASA, right? And you're going to have to talk about the International Space Station. You're going to have to talk about some foreign governments and their involvement because, when you think about it from a universal standpoint, right, the planet Earth is basically one thing. So, I'm not saying I'm into the one world idea. However, there's cooperation between different nations, right? So you're going to have to examine that. And even up to today when we have this new concept of the Space Force now, about to launch, I mean, it all has to be tied together to make sense along with what it is you're talking about because this will be the vanguard of what we know anyway, publicly, generally. And then there's a whole lot of hidden stuff that has gone, parallel with all that all along, long before even, Kennedy said, look, we're going to put a man on the moon by 1969, right? Which they got done, allegedly. But, but here's the thing. There's questions about that still, Jordan. So you're going to have to answer a lot of that kind of stuff in a presentation like this, and I'm willing to bet that you're going to address all of that in this 2-hour video, right?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about a subject that most people have never heard before. And it's the most extraordinary story of the beginnings of the human race and why today our world operates the way it does in all countries. I came across some information from my dear friend Jay Widener. Jay Widener is an incredibly brilliant guy who does astoundingly lectures on the hidden stuff of the world, hidden knowledge. Mm-hmm. And he did one incredible lecture at this last conference that he helped me to understand some things which blew my mind. And I mean, I've been working on it for almost 55 years, this information that he divulged, that he talked about. I'd already done over 50 years of research on this subject and never heard the point that he made. The first 5 minutes of his lecture just blew me away. And so now I want to put together, because I feel I'm not going to be here for long. I'm 80 years old now, and I want to put together the definitive video of my life, where the human race came from and why we are operating on the world scale today the way we are, and who caused it. How did we get here, and where are we going? And it's going to be one incredible story when you see it.
Well, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but I got another question.
I'll bet.
And I'm wondering, well, I got two. I'll throw two at you at once, and you deal with them any way you want. First of all, I know that you're going to have to touch on the work of somebody like Joseph P. Farrell.
Oh,
because,
yes. Oh, absolutely.
So you're going to have to at least tip your hat at that. I mean, again, it's not that you haven't done your own work, but what I'm saying is other people have done some work too that has
have helped me so very much. Yeah. Absolutely. Joseph Farrell is just an extraordinary man. I can't believe I'm actually talking to him. I do that. I call him at home, and we can sit and talk for hours. And I cannot believe I'm actually talking to Joseph Farrell, because he is so incredibly well informed. I don't know how he gets all the documents and the knowledge and the background on how things work, what organizations are financed by whom, and who actually runs it. It's just an incredible world, and I really appreciate his work.
Mm. So the other question I have is this: you're also going to have to dip into another subject area here, though, in order to tell this whole story. And I imagine this is just my imaginings, and you can correct me. That you're also going to have to talk about the biblical story.
Oh, heavens, yes.
Right? Because
absolutely,
there are hints in there that, at least my understanding, again, I have not studied this as much as you have, but there are hints in there to explain some things about the origins of the species as it stands when we talk about humanity. That,
right.
It need to be added into this story that you're going to be telling here. See, here it is. I haven't seen any of this video, by the way, guys. I haven't seen any of this stuff. Jordan has not shared it. There was another project I thought he was going to talk about actually when I asked, but I'm thinking in my head, what is it that, Jordan could possibly address? And the answer is all of the above that I've talked about here and that Jordan's been talking about, because it's all part of the story, isn't it, Jordan?
Yes, it is. Basically, I will tell you what the story is that I'm going to tell in my magnum opus, in my major, last, and final shot heard around the world.
Okay.
The subject matter is going to be, I want to prove beyond a possible doubt that the world you live in with its governmental systems, its religious and philosophical systems, its especially its religious systems, was given to the human family a long, long time ago. And by a long time, I mean maybe 15 to 20 to 30,000 years ago. What we believe today was given to us by extraterrestrials. I don't care what you think about that idea. I'm going to try and prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I think I've got some pretty impressive information from the ancient world, going back into the ancient Egyptian world, the ancient Sumerian, Babylonian world, and began to unfold for you the first time all the ancient stuff that has been hidden from us that we didn't know about.
Right.
And I've got some information out of Egypt that will knock you out. We are actually being led by other off-world, off-earth intelligences, something that we refer to as extraterrestrial. And there is no doubt in my mind they're here and they are guiding our destiny. And it's right in front of you. When you undress the Christian system and find out where it actually came from and what it actually taught in its very beginnings, not what it teaches today. The Christianity is being taught today has nothing whatsoever, period, to do with the ancient worship that we call Christianity. Christianity is a totally different story completely from anything you've ever heard in a church today. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the ancient Egyptian, you will see it's all been captured by and regurgitated by the Jewish religion. The Jewish people are totally unaware, and that's amazing to me. I've always thought of the Jewish people as doctors and lawyers and brilliant people, which they are, but there's equal amount of brilliant people all over the world. And when you go into the religious background of the Jewish faith and the Jewish religion and the Jewish scriptures, you're going to find things in there that you will not believe, that they actually believe. They actually accept and believe certain things that will blow your mind. And that's what I want to talk about, all the stuff that's been hidden from the world. Let me give you a little classic example of what I'm talking about or what I'm going to be dealing with in this television thing I'm doing.
Sure.
In this video series I'm going to do. The sun god of the ancient Egyptians, we call him Akhenaten. And the way I'm trying to figure out how to put this in a few words so you can understand. There is a definite connection between the worship of the modern day worship of the Jewish religion and the Nazi movement. The Nazi belief system coming out of Nazi Germany is absolutely identical to Judaism and its earliest forms. And they're both worshiping the both operations, Judaism and Nazism, are actually, in fact, promoting the worship, promoting the belief system that we today call Nazism. And the symbols are all right there because the god of the Nazis was a Egyptian god named Akhenaten. And the way that the ancient Egyptians spelled the name of their most important god, the sun god, was A-T-O-N, Aton. Atonism, or the worship of the sun god Aton, dominates the planet, or the earth. The whole earth is being led by and promoted in their destiny to worship the Aton. The Aton was the symbol for the sun god of Egypt. And the Aton of Egypt, his symbol was a swastika. And he was a sun god. And this is why the swastika is known to be a sun symbol. Well, if you go back to the Jewish rabbinical teachings, you will find that in every synagogue in the world today, every synagogue will tell you that the scripture says that we should not use God's name in vain. So the Jewish God, you should never use his name. And because if you're not a Jew, if you're not a high-standing a Jew with a real background in Judaism, and you use God's name, it is said that you're using God's name in vain because you don't supposed to know His name, and you're not supposed to use His name. But in Judaism, there is allowed a word that represents the main God of Judaism. It does represent the Jewish God, but it's not His name. It's a representation, a substitute for His name. And that substitute is a symbol. It's a symbol in all synagogues. There's virtually every synagogue in the world has the same symbol for the name of God. And that symbol is a sun, the S-U-N, the sun. And it's a sunburst with the rays of the sun bursting around the sun. And those rays of the sun are referred to as a corona. And it connects directly to what we're talking about today about the coronavirus. The corona, it's very, very powerful and interesting stuff, boy, when you get into what the corona symbolizes in Judaism, and then find out that the main symbol in the World Communist Party that came out of the Soviet Union, the Russian Soviet Communist Party, they used the symbol of the rising sun and the corona. And therefore the symbol in China today is a corona. And then now we're being told about this coronavirus, I'm saying, boy, what a story. It is incredible. You're not going to believe it when you see it. But here's the problem. You have to actually see it, because telling you about it is not really sufficient. You have to see it, and then it will, as I say, it will finally dawn on you, like the sun dawns on us. The truth and the light of what's going on with this coronavirus and China and the Communist Party in America, the Communist Party in the USA, were using the symbol of a corona as their symbol for world communism. It's really an impressive and awesome story. But you have to see it, and that's what I want to do. I want to be able to show the pictures of the symbol and the words and where it comes from. And I was going to say, in all synagogues throughout the world, the symbol for the God of the Jews today is a sunrise with the corona, and that corona is representing the light from God. But that symbol is called, you may have heard this term used in Judaism, it's called the tetragrammaton. Mm-hmm. Tetragrammaton is a word for the Jewish God that it is all right for us poor folks to use, but not, it represents the name of God. It is not the name, it just represents the name. So we can use that term if you want to talk about the Jewish God. His name is the word is tetragrammaton. And so the tetragrammaton is always a sunburst in the altar, on the walls in all synagogues. And the word is tetragrammaton. The word tetra is 4. Gram, G-R-A-M-M, is a letter, which gives us our word grammar. So tetragram is 4 letters. Tetragrammaton, A-T-O-N, at the end of the word tetragrammaton is tetragrammaton. The aton, the symbol for the sun god in Egypt, was a swastika. And Adolf Hitler used the swastika. Why? Because the Jewish rabbis used the swastika. Today in Israel, there are synagogues in Israel where there are swastikas on the floor and on the walls and on the altars. And it's an incredible whirl of darkness when you finally, for the first time, you see what the tetragrammaton word for God simply means the sun god Aton. And then you see in the synagogues certain swastikas. And then you'll understand for the first time why the Nazis used the swastika. Because there's an actual connection between Germany, the German people, German history, and Jewish history. The Jews of Germany, the German Jews. There's a world of knowledge that most people have never even thought of. But if you start doing your homework, you're going to find out that there's a very, very powerful story between the Jewish people of this world and Germany and the German people, and the connection between Judaism, German philosophies and religions based on the tetragram Aton, and the Aton is the sun. And so I'm going to do a whole video on that, and just know that it's going to really be controversial at best when I show you all the synagogues in Israel that are using as a symbol for their God the swastika.
Right.
Better wake up. There's something going on here you've never been told before.
Right. And you know, we did go over a lot of this in the in the series we did, and but not all of it. And I would say that well, when you get into the creation story, that's going to be really new to me, because we didn't touch on it much during the, you know, we talked about comparisons between creation stories and how they have similarities. And, you know, the concept of, you know, why it is the Savior dies on the cross. And we discussed all that. But, you know, there is a deeper element to this. There is a concept here which we only vaguely touched on, regarding, you know, exactly how man comes into existence. And so when you tie that together with the ideas that you're talking about here, this is going to be quite extensive. And you know, I don't know if you're going to be able to pack it into 2 hours. I think you're going to have to go 3. But
yeah, very well might be. And I will guarantee you, nobody is going to want to hear this. Nobody, especially Judaism and the Jewish leaders of Israel, are not going to want to hear this. But it's history. If you want to look at the history, you better look at all of it. You can't cherry pick. You have to look at the whole development of the human family, going all the way back to way before the founding of Egypt, going back to the Hindus and India.
See, now, it's great that you bring that up, Jordan, because in the chat room right now, somebody just poked up with a comment which says that effectively the swastika is seen in various cultures with some variations, and I think they all go back to this concept of the representation of the sun. That is, to the best of my knowledge, but they just made a comment there, not quite a question.
No, but that's true. That's true. It is true that it all goes back to the worship of the Aton. Look up the word Aton. The Aton was the sun god of Egypt, and so that's why the Jews will tell you their God's name that you can use is called the tetragram Aton. Tetra is 4, gram is letters, and that's what it is, 4 letters. Tetragram Aton, Tetragrammaton, is the name of the Jewish God. The Jews are telling you, the ancient God of Egypt, the Aton, is our God, and you should not use his name Aton, because then it will give it away who we're really worshiping. It'll give it away. So don't use his name. Use something that you can use, that we allowed it to use. Use the symbol. It's called tetragrammaton, tetragram Aton. And the tetragram Aton was a symbol of the sun god of Egypt. And one of the symbols that was most prevalent in Europe and the world today is the swastika, the symbol of the sun. And as I said, you will find swastikas in Israel, in the synagogues in Israel. Go on the web today. Go on the web, anybody listening to me, and look up swastikas in Israel.
Right.
And you will see what I'm talking about, because it's all on the web.
Well, I'll tell you something else, Jordan, really quickly here, is that you don't have to believe Jordan Maxwell when it comes to this concept about not speaking God's name. Because I'll tell you what, memory serves me correctly, I think in the Talmud, and I'm very sure in the Kabbalah, both books have very extensive instruction about not speaking. I'm serious. You're laughing because you know I'm right. But I mean, for the listener out there, no joke at all. You can read in the texts themselves that there is a whole extensive instruction on how you're not to speak the name unless, and how you are only to speak the name in certain circumstances. And it goes on and on. There's quite a extensive list of instruction about this in the Kabbalah, especially, which is more of a mystical book than a religious text. But I'm just saying it is there in their own text. It is not something that you're inventing. Just in case somebody thinks you are. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Exactly. And then when you're investigating the ancient dark occult, which simply means hidden, the ancient dark occult beginnings of political parties, and you find out that the Democratic Party, the word democratic today actually means Marxist-Leninist Soviet communism. That's what you mean. You're talking about Soviet communists. And you don't call them Soviet communists because they don't want to be known by that name. It has a bad piece of business with that name. So you don't call them Marxist communists. You call them left-wing and Democrats. Democrats. Why do you have a left and right-wing in politics? Because it represents the American eagle. The American eagle is a symbol for America. And it's an American symbol taken from the Native Americans of an eagle. The eagle represents the sun, just like Aton. The sun is the bottom line on the whole world, everything. It's all in our religious systems. It's in our political philosophies, ideas. And the word Democrat today simply means Soviet Marxist communism.
And
now, a lot of people don't know that, and they're going to become very unhappy to hear that. But I'm just explaining to you as a teacher so that you might understand what you're doing if you call yourself a Democrat.
Right. Now, to expand on this eagle concept really quickly, Jordan, because, we're down to about 12 minutes here in the first hour, just so you know. But really quickly to expand on the eagle concept, in the iconography of again, the Nazis, you find they used eagles, first of all. Alexander the Great, used the eagle as part of his standard. Many royal families.
The Roman Empire symbol was an eagle.
That was my next point I was going to go to, is that for much of the Roman Empire, the eagle was the prominent icon, the animal icon that was shown, in order to show royalty, superiority, empire, this concept of the, blanketing the earth as the sun does. The eagle is the symbol of the sun. So,
yes, because the eagle can be very, very, very high. They fly very high, and they have an eagle eye. They have a very, very good eyesight. So they're watching everything on the earth. No matter how far up they are, they can see a mouse in the right place and zoom down for dinner. And so that's why we use the eagle to symbolize the sun. The American bald eagle is like the Roman eagle, and our whole system is based on sun worship, on the Aton, the swastika. It's incredible how much people don't know about the world they live in.
Right, that is the key.
And so what I want to do is I want to do a video where you actually, with your eyes, you see it. And that's when it becomes impossible to deny, when you actually see the symbol used by the U.S. government and symbols that are used by the Catholic Church, by the Roman Church, and by Christianity. And for people to understand Christianity, I always introduce the idea of a question. Who owns the sun? That thing that comes up every morning, brings light into the world. Who owns the sun? That's a good place to start, to question where Christianity comes from. And so most people will tell you, well, nobody on the earth owns the sun. I say, okay, but if the sun is going to be owned, who would own it? Well, I suppose if you're religious, if you're philosophical, if you lean toward theology, you would say possibly that God owns the sun. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll leave it at that. God owns the sun. So therefore, that thing that comes up in the morning, brings light into the world, is God's son. And we say about God's son, Jesus is God's son. Mm-hmm. And God's son, we say about in the Bible that Jesus is the light of the world. Well, of course, the sun is the light of the world. What else lights this world if not the sun? And Jesus is God's son, the light of the world, and therefore God's son is our risen Savior. Why? Because he has risen. And we say that in Christianity, Jesus is risen. Why? Because every morning about 5 o'clock, God's son is risen. And we say, thank God it's risen, because if the sun doesn't rise, we're going to be dead on this earth in about 3 weeks. It's going to get awful cold, and nothing's going to grow, and the people will die, animals will die, plant life will die, and we'll be under miles and miles of ice like glaciers. And so therefore, thank God the sun is risen. And then when you start applying all of these ideas about the life of the sun in relation to our solar system, you will see where Christianity comes from. Because God's son is the light of the world. He has 12 helpers. That's right, the 12 months of the year help God's son to bring light to the world. Mm-hmm. The 12 helpers are the 12 brothers of Joseph, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 apostles, the 12 symbols on the breastplate of the high priest. Everything in the Bible, Old and New Testament, is based on the 12. The 12 is the 12 constellations of the zodiac, the 12 months of the year. It's an incredible story, and I want to show this all in a video. And it's going to be one heck of a video, because I know it's going to offend a lot of people, but that's what the truth does. The truth has a way of offending people who thought they understood the whole world and they were in charge of everything and they know exactly what's going on. And then one day late in life, you find out everything you've been taught and everything you believed and been promoting was not true. It wasn't a lie. It was just not true. And it was based on a philosophy that you've never heard of before. It's called astrotheology. And so that's what I try and do, is I want to put into the mind of the people of this world that there is a whole world of knowledge about theology, religion, what God is. The word God is simply the word dog spelled backwards. Mm-hmm. And so I want to awaken to the human race to the fact that there is a world of knowledge you've never been told. About the swastika, about the Communist Party, about the Soviet Union and the democratic movement around the world. And when there's a riot breaks out after a football game or some major ball game, when there's a riot breaks out and people in the street drunk and they're turning over cars and breaking windows and tearing down and burning buildings, we call it a demonstration. Why is it a demonstration? Because the word demos in Greek means a mob. Mm. And so if you got a mob in the street and they're all drunk and they're turning over cars and lighting fires and tearing down buildings, that's a demonstration, because they are doing what they call democrat. They are democratic, meaning it's a rule of the mob. And believe me, you don't want that kind of government in this country, where the mob, the drunken lunacy mob in the street, will decide what you can do and what you can't do. It's called democracy. democracy is Soviet Marxist communism. I could show all of this and show you where the word comes from. And this is today, incidentally, why the Democratic Party is so profoundly, invested in getting rid of the president. But they want him dead. They want him out of office, gone off the earth, and dead. Why? Because Russia, the Soviet Union, was at one time a great enemy of the United States. And the Democratic Party remembers that, and they don't want to see the United States powerful again. The Democratic Party is a Marxist-Leninist Soviet Communist Party. And that's why they don't like the president, because he is not only an American, but he is a wealthy American who has done very well for himself and has the idea of running the country and making money for everyone. And it's an incredible story of why the Democratic Party hates the president. It's because he knows and understands what democracy really is.
Well,
he knows how it works and what's going on, and he means to bring back America to its the standing it had before it got involved in all the wars and all the tragedies that we've had. It's really a dark story. And people are not going to want to believe it.
No, I understand. And look, I do respectfully disagree with you a little bit about that part of it, because there's a lot more to this. Because quite frankly, usually when somebody is actually dangerous to the establishment, they don't get to live. They're usually taken care of. You know, when they're, except the communists. Well, but that's the thing. If that's the establishment, then they usually eliminate their enemies if they get anywhere near a button of power. That's usually what happens, and I don't know. I don't see them really trying to get rid of them. I think actually.
That's why we call the United States the Great Democratic Party.
It's
Salute
a lot
the flag.
And it's complex because there's a lot of controlled opposition too, don't forget.
Of course there is.
So there's complexities to this story, but I gotta tell you, I'm looking very forward to seeing this video. And, when do you think it'll be out, this new video of yours?
It's probably not gonna be out for a few months yet.
Okay.
Because I've already got, I'd say a good 9/10 of it done. But I've got to redo it again because I've got a lot more information that I didn't have at first. I've got a lot more stuff I have to add in, so I've got to go back on the drawing board, put the whole thing back together again, and this time make it even bigger and more depth in the symbolism and the words and the terms, and show you where it comes down through history and what the words mean. And once I do this, I hope that this will be the last time I will have to say anything to the world to show you what's going on in America and where we're headed. And I will add to this a comment that, and keep in mind, as me saying it, but I believe we're going to see this at the end of this year, a horrible and tragic thing happening on the earth today. Something is going to happen in America because the whole earth is going to experience some kind of a tragic, incredible problem of a social unrest, maybe a great revolution. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be terrible. And I really know it's coming, and I can see it, and I already feel it. Something's going on in our country today, and there's a war coming.
Well, I understand all that, I gotta tell you, and I do feel trepidation about this year. I think a lot of things are going to be clarified in 2020. 2020 vision means that an object which is 20 feet away appears 20 feet away, and that's standard vision, and I think we're actually going to return to it by the end of this year. But it may not be anything less than a bumpy ride getting there. But you, the listener, can always keep track of when Jordan puts out this video and what Jordan is up to by going to JordanMaxwellShow.com. That is the only website, by the way, that is run by and is actually connected to the man, Jordan Maxwell. You got to put all three words together as one word for the website. Ready? JordanMaxwellShow.com. You go over there, you can make a contribution, you can email Jordan directly, you can watch videos, you can explore the website, and, I would suggest that you get involved in the Research Society, which you can enter through JordanMaxwellShow.com. It is a separate branch out there in the interwebs, if you will, but it contains a ton of information. I mean, there was more than a terabyte in there. The last time you and I discussed it, I know your webmaster works on it, and people can join that for a one-time fee, which basically helps to pay the webmaster. It doesn't even go to Jordan, by the way. But basically,
it doesn't go to me.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a one-time fee, a small one-time donation.
Yes.
To the website, Jordan Maxwell Research website.
Right.
And it's a massive website with all kinds of lectures and videos you really need to know about. You need to listen to these things that are on my research website.
Right.
And there are books and people and links that you need to know about, and books and articles.
No, there's whole books, there's articles, there's videos. How do I know all this personally? Because I'm a member. Okay, so that's why I'm telling you, not just to promote it, but I'm actually part of it. So I'm telling you now, it is more than well worth the one-time donation. But at the same time, if you go to JordanMaxwellShow.com, like I said, you could, help with the well-being of Jordan Maxwell and purchase one of the videos that are there to stream, or you could simply make a donation, email Jordan, and look for other details. Maybe there's other ways you can get involved with Jordan's work or supporting it. I'm not going to tell you I know everything. I know he's always got something going on, and it is amazing that we still have you past the age of 80. I almost don't want to curse you with the idea that I'd like to see you here for a lot of more years, because who wants to live forever, Jordan? Not me. But I'd like you to be around as long as you want, my friend. I am grateful that I have encountered you, and grateful that I've been able to do these presentations with you on my radio show, and I can't thank you enough. And again, guys, I would suggest, if you're going, gee, I just heard Jordan Maxwell for the first time. First of all, I don't know how you got here, but welcome. But secondly, the thing is that I would advise you to go and take a listen to the Dogmatic Theology 20 some odd part series there, where we get into a lot of what was discussed tonight. But again, go to JordanMaxwellShow.com, support, explore, join the Research Society, which you can get to through that website, and I say educate yourselves as best you can. We will see what goes on in the next hour on the Ocelli Effect, but Jordan, thank you so much for being on with me.
Quite all right, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, listen, it's
if you
always
would like, we could do another hour. I'll stay for another hour if you'd like. You can do another hour, because I know there's so many things I want to talk about, and maybe people want to send some questions or whatever. I'll try and answer them the best I can.
All right. Well, let's do that after this break. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. WallStreetWindow.com. Gold, silver, the stock market. WallStreetWindow.com.
Perhaps you're invested deeply.
Perhaps you're not in deep enough. Maybe you're thinking about getting started. WallStreetWindow.com. Michael Swanson, the brilliant author of The War State, understood these trends professionally for many years, and now he gives you the benefit of his knowledge. WallStreetWindow.com. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now.
Humans. Their nature demands competition. The rising tide of aggression shaping the world around us. Natural fear and disgust can overcome the ability to reason. Coping skills are left wanting. Carmine Savastano, Human Time Bomb, The Violence Within Our Nature, poses significant questions and considers the evidence that violence shapes the past and present. Human Time Bomb, the violence within our nature. Order your digital and print copies now on Amazon.com. For more information, visit tpaak.com. Carmine Savastano, Human Time Bomb.
Well, it's about goddamn time they wake up. Hell, I've been talking about this since 1959, about the corruption, the incredible lies, deception of the entire superstructure of Western civilization, and the incredible treason, lunacy, lies, deception. It's just amazing how much has been done in the past 100 years to the human family.
That was Jordan Maxwell on the Ocelli Effect. For more pods with Jordan and Chuck, search Ocelli.com, along with hundreds of other shows and topics as presented by Chuck Ocelli on Ocelli.com. Thanks for listening.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I'm interested in the truth about the JFK assassination.
Right. Well, what do you want to know?
Judy Baker's wild claim, Oswald girlfriend, she knew Ruby and Barry, cancer weapons. Really?
I imagine I could claim I have 4 wheels. It doesn't make me a wagon, but okay.
Oswald was on the kill team and trying to prevent the murder of John Kennedy. Come on now. Has a real expert on the JFK assassination looked into her claims?
Go to Amazon.com, enter Judith Baker in her own words. You'll get results for a digital copy of a book where Walt Brown utilizes her own words and the known evidence in the case to get at, well, a different perspective, let's say. You can get Judith Barry Baker in her own words from the author himself, signed if you request it, by contacting Dr. Brown at KIASJFK@AOL.com. It's a fun book, and it actually dissects the many, many fantastic claims. Judith Barry Baker in her own words.
Thank you for all the great information.
Ocelli.com.
We should learn from our relatively recent history, my brother. That's where I'm coming from. I say all power to the people.
And now, the most underrated voice in all media. Chuck O'Celli.
Second hour of the O'Celli Effect begins now here at O'Celli.com. Of course, you could be hearing this further on down the stream via your Fondle Slab of choice, your applicable application, etc. All that good stuff. Look, I don't care who you are, where you are. Welcome to the Friday night show that was, because a lot of you will catch this, like I said, later. And I get that. It's okay, and it will be worth it. Jordan Maxwell is going to remain with me for this hour. So I'm going to tell you what, I am going to reserve my time on Monday to give you the complete coronavirus breakdown. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to squeeze it into an hour, by the way. When I explain to you what it is I see going on there, personally, it'll be my point of view, and you're going to get the full editorial, because we have talked about it this week. And, but I've only asked other people their opinions mainly, if you notice. I mean, I say at all times, never panic, especially when the authorities that be are speaking to you and trying to provoke panic, okay? And look, not about the coronavirus specifically, Jordan, but I'm sure you can agree with that idea. Don't react simply because there is a pronouncement from the media or anybody else, because, you know, a lot of times people make announcements and pronouncements about disasters, crises, I guess that's plural, I'm not sure, you know, of all sorts, and they're not doing it because they're concerned about your safety or your health. You gotta watch it, you gotta analyze, you gotta think for yourself, and not necessarily go into a panic or start doing destructive things because you're reacting to the grand boogeyman, whatever it might be at any point in time. Always evaluate the situation. I don't think you would argue with any of that, Jordan, would you?
No, that's absolutely correct. Government always wants the people to be on edge, because that's the best way to control them. If they think that they are safe and they've got money and they're secure, then why should they worry about government, what government's going to do?
Right.
They'll do what they want to do. They got the money, they got the protection, they got the security, so government wants to make sure you're not secure. They will tell you all kinds of things. Military tells you all kinds of stuff just to scare you into following them, so that you will need them to protect you, as you said, from the boogeyman.
Right,
and so
you know,
you need to analyze everything government says. I think you would know that by now.
Oh yeah, but that's head to toe, Jordan, because I mean, you and I have sat and discussed about what the police actually are. They're policy enforcers. It's right there in the name. You know, and this is something that people hear out of my mouth all the time. But, quite frankly, again, this was sort of sharpened by, by Jordan Maxwell and what he has taught people over the years, that, you know, in a lot of cases, the names themselves, the reality of a circumstance is sometimes hidden in the labels, which is interesting. You know, why do they call what they put on TV programming? Well, you know, it's because it's there to program you. I'm just saying there are reasons for the titles, not necessarily what you think they are.
Well, let me give you an example so people can understand what we're talking about. How government deceives you into doing things that you don't need to do, and being afraid of something you don't need to be afraid of because it's not there. A classic example is when you're driving along the highway and the red light comes on behind you with the cop on the motorcycle or in the car, and when you pull off the side of the road and the police walk up to your car and they want your information, they want your driver's license, etc., and then they pull out a ticket. They pull out something what they call a ticket, and they fill out the ticket, and then they sign it, then they hand it to you, and you sign it, and then you keep your copy of it. And the idea is you're supposed to pay the ticket. But what you don't know and never been told before is that you on that ticket are an undersigner. You are a co-signer on a ticket in commerce, because that ticket he's writing out is called a ticket in commerce, meaning it's a piece of business between you and the government. And so the piece of business is a ticket, and you are a co-signer or an undersigner, meaning that if you wanted to buy something expensive and you don't have the money and you may not be able to pay for it, I go with you and I co-sign for you. That means if you don't pay it, I'm liable to pay it myself because I co-sign for you. And so keep that in mind. And when you get a ticket, you are a co-signer. And I have seen it happen where people who gotten tickets who knew about this kind of stuff I'm learning from, they take that ticket and photocopy it and put it with an affidavit and send it in to the Secretary of State in the state in which they live. And they say to the Secretary of State, I am sorry, I made a mistake. I co-signed for this bill. I didn't realize I was co-signing for it. Could you please take my name off of this bill that I co-signed on? And the Secretary of State will then send that to the Department of the Treasury in the state in which you live, and the Treasury will then take your name off of that bill, off of that ticket, and they will send the ticket now to the cop's house. Now the guy who gave you the ticket, he has to pay it. It's his ticket. He signed it. You are a co-signer. It's not your ticket. It's his ticket. He has to pay it. And so he has to go down and pay the ticket that he wrote out for you. A lot of people don't know that. I've seen it happen. And so this is just one more case of how people are taken in and afraid they have a big ticket they have to pay. You are a co-signer. And if you're a co-signer, you can back out of co-signing. I mean, if I go with you to a store and to buy a television and I co-sign for you, I can, because I have the right to immediately tell the store later the next day, I've decided I don't want to co-sign. So take me off it as a co-signer. So if he doesn't pay for it, it's your problem. Get him to pay for it. And so therefore, if you don't pay for it, the cop has to. How many people know that? People just ordinarily go in to pay the fine and the ticket. Why? Because they've got a ticket. They have to pay it. No, you don't have to pay it. You are a co-signer. The insurance company calls you an undersigner. You signed under his name, so you are an undersigner. You are a co-signer. And I'm just giving you an example of how the government operates in a way that you don't know and you don't understand and takes advantage of your ignorance.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm ignorant to this anyway because I've never been a legal driver of an automobile or whatever. So,
yeah, right.
So I never did that. But I will tell you one thing I do know about, which is, you know how people think they own a house and a piece of property?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny because, if you get a copy of the paperwork,
yep.
Take a look at how you're listed. You're not listed as an owner. You're listed as a tenant, which I don't know. I always understood that word, to mean that I was somebody who simply lived somewhere, in a place that, didn't necessarily belong to me.
That's exactly right.
Now, I don't know why this is the way it is, but I happen to know that that's how you come up on the paperwork as a tenant.
Right.
Which, even though you're paying on a loan and all that, and a loan contract does not even necessarily, have anything to do with the piece of property, which is kind of interesting.
That's right.
I point this out as an inconsistency in what people think regarding the paperwork behind these things.
You see, but when you put up the money for a piece of property, an automobile, a boat, or anything else, you put up the money for the property and you think you own it. No, you are what government calls an equitable interest. You have an equitable interest in the house. You don't own it. The only way you can own something, and I do mean own it, like the Queen of England owns certain things, and there ain't nothing you gonna do to take it away from her because she's a queen and she says she owns something. It's hers, period. You can't touch it. And so the way you do that in America, you buy the house or the car or whatever it is you're buying with an allodial title. Most people have never heard the word allodial. A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Allodial. Allodial title means God can't touch that property. Whatever it is you buy, you own it. And if you bought an old house in downtown when your town was very small and Mickey Mouse town, and one day it grows to be like New York and it's a huge town, and one of the big corporations wants to put a high-rise up among all the other high-rises, but your little house is there and they want to remove you and put their high-rise up. If your home is in allodial title, that means no matter how much money and how much they cry and complain, they cannot touch that property. It's an allodial ownership. A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Allodial title. Have you ever heard of allodial title? Well, maybe not. It's because nobody's ever told you that you don't own anything. You have a equitable interest in the house.
You know,
you have an
side
equitable
note,
interest in the car.
Right. Now, that's an interesting concept that frankly, I don't know a lot about. But you know, there's a world of stuff like this. And here's an interesting side note to one of the things you were saying about the Queen, which I find, hilarious in its irony. The Queen actually doesn't operate just as the Queen. That's a funny thing about that. Like the way it is in the UK at the moment. Guess what? The Queen operates through the office of the King. Yep. That is a fascinating thing to it, where it's not as though the Queen has control over things. Like, in other words, since there is no king and there's a vacancy there, she can operate through the King's office. Mm-hmm. But see, if there's a king there, no good. It doesn't work the same way, see? And I think that's why that's been allowed to stand as it has for the past, I don't know, how long has it been that there's just been a queen in England? I don't know.
I know. Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Seems as though normal people would not necessarily still be around, but, you know, some people do tend to seem to live on, and I don't know. They have a year count on her, but I'm not sure it's accurate. Anyway, I'm just saying that there's a lot of technicalities to this stuff that of course you're not allowed to know, because guess what? You're not part of the society that is, you know, that actually handles this, and that is the legal society. And they have their own language. It's called legalese, isn't it? And,
that's right.
You know, this blend of Latin and other phraseology, you know, do you stand, do you bear witness, and all these things, they actually have meaning. It sounds like a lot of just jargon for the sake of jargon, but it is jargon for the sake of making sure that you're actually an imbecile when you go to court, which is why somebody who is approved to stand to the bar, right? And what is the bar? It is the Crown Temple Bar Association, is it not? So, you know, you have to have one of them speak on your behalf because you're an imbecile.
That's exactly right. And if you go to court, why do you go to court? You play tennis on a court. Mm-hmm. You play basketball on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You have to play with a racket.
Yeah, that's true.
And so what does that tell you?
Yeah, and there's judges there too, but they just judge lines and things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. And again, these are lines, but who painted them and who decided what shape they were? Well, that is a whole deeper discussion as well. And by the way, there's a whole section on the legal system in the Jordan Maxwell Research Society, which explains a lot of these things. And, you know, there are people in the chat room right now saying that, you know, a lot of this stuff about, you know, asserting your rights and your titles and exactly what the legal circumstance and grounds that you're standing on and all that, in a lot of cases, it does not matter. They'll just turn around and do what they want anyway.
Yeah, because they got the guns.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing is, that is the ultimate conclusion here is that it is, and this is one of the keys that I think people fail to understand, and that is that government in and of itself and individuals who wish to exert their will over others, they do it by violence and by threat of violence. And that is the reason by which the system is actually set up. You know, your rights, in quotes, are actually privileges under said system and all their many policies, which are impossible to keep track of, by the way.
Yes, and ask yourself, why is it in all the cowboy movies that Hollywood's turned out with the John Wayne cowboy movies, the cowboys always wore guns, and they could always come into town, they didn't have to get a permit or pay a fine or a fee to carry a gun. Nobody, including the sheriff and the marshal, never questioned, does not in any way question in the cowboy movies that men come into the bar with a gun on their hip. Nobody ever questions that, including today. How come we have to have a permit and pay a fine or a ticket in order to have a gun, in order to carry a gun? We have to fight to have a gun. But before, the cowboys didn't need to fight. They just wore a gun.
Right.
And it was perfectly legal and lawful. Why? Because the way the government was set up. We were a republic before. We're not a republic today. Today, we are not a government. We're not the United States of America. There are two constitutions here that are being played on. We have a constitution for and a constitution of. It doesn't mean the same thing. For and of are two different words. So you have a constitution for the United States and you have a constitution of the United States. And so you need to know which one, and then for the first time you'll understand how your government was done away with back in 1870. The Supreme Court did away with the idea that we have a United States government, a United States of America government. It was done away with for good. So today you cannot go into a court and tell the judge, you have a right. The judge will explain to you, son, you don't have any rights. Americans have rights. You're not an American. You're a U.S. citizen. You better go back and do some homework and understand what U.S. citizen means. You're going to find out that you are not who you thought you were. And the world is not what was founded in 1776. It was founded in 1870s. There was a corporation founded in 1870s, and the whole of the United States changed from being a republic among the nations of the world. 1870s, the United States no longer is a republic among the world's governments. It is a corporation like Sears, Ford Motor Company, Exxon Oil, all the other big corporations. Well, there's a bigger corporation. It's called the United States Corporation. It's a company. And you are an employee of a foreign corporation under maritime law. You just didn't know it because you've never been told. You're not living in the United States of America. You're living in a company that's called the United States Incorporate. We need to wake up and understand the world you live in. I know that 99% of the stuff I talk about sounds crazy until you do your own homework. Go out and start looking. Go on my website and join my research website. And there's a place on my research website called Interesting Articles. I will guarantee you there's some stuff on the interesting articles that will blow you away. Stuff you've never heard about the United States Corporation and how the United States operates today and what it is. Go on my website and plan on sitting and reading. All the links are there. It tells you all the documents are there, and you will find out who you are for the first time and why it is you don't have any ownership of anything. You are not even, if you're a U.S. citizen, you are not considered to be a man or a woman. You are considered to be an animal. And the reason why is because of the way your name is presented. Your name, today we call men males, and we have female, male and female. But in the government, U.S. government printing office, it's called the Styles magazine. The U.S. government prints a magazine called the Styles. And in the Styles magazine, it gives you all the words that are used in a federal court. And what the federal court understands those words to mean, not what you think they mean, but what the judge knows it means from the federal point of view. And it will tell you that under the word man, you are not a man, you are an animal. And all animals, if you were a man, you would be referred to as a masculine or a feminine. But you're not a masculine or feminine on your identification, driver's license, or whatever you got, insurance company, or your bills that come to you each month. It's always male and female. The Styles magazine says male and female is reserved for an animal. You are not a man unless you are referred to by law as a masculine. Nobody's masculine. You're all males. Well, that's what your dog is a male and female. Your cats are male and female. Animals are male and female. And the government you live under, which is a corporation, a company like Ford Motor Company, has said that you are not a man or a woman, and your children are not human. They're not human. They are animals. And this is why you have the children of Israel in the land of Canaan. We have Israel, and their people have children, and they're called the children of Israel. You don't have children. You have kids, baby goats. You need to do some homework on the words, terms, and how government operates. You're going to find out Jordan Maxwell is correct and what he is saying because I've done the homework. It's all there. Go on my research website, join it, and do your own research. It's all there with all the links and places to go to get the information. And I put it all out there for you to read and make it real easy for you.
Right.
So don't say you've never been told.
Well, in a legal sense, here's an interesting thing. I know for a fact that my children were referred to as products.
Yeah.
And that is what they called them actually when I had to go to court, as products of the marriage that was being examined and dissolved when I went for a divorce. And
that's why the male in a marriage, we say he has manufactured. The woman is in labor, building the product he has manufactured.
Well, right, but they are the product. Of the corporate structure, which is the agreement between the two parties, that is the merger that is licensed by your government, which is really kind of an interesting way to look at it. I know it doesn't sound very romantic or anything, but it's not. It's not. It's commerce. That's what it is. It's commerce.
It's a business. And if I see you come out of a restaurant at 12 o'clock at night with a woman, a particular woman, I'd call you the next day and I'd say, you know, that woman you were out with last night, she is bad company. You better watch out for her. And you say to me, mind your own business.
Yeah, it's none of your business. I might say even.
And company. What are you talking about? I'm saying she's bad company and you say mind your own business, that's why, because the communication between male and female, between man and woman, is considered to be a business. And if you're going to get married, you got to get a marriage license. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's a business. You don't do business in this country without a license. You have to have a license to do business. So when you buy a new car, you are considered to be an operator, and therefore you get something called an operator's manual. But if you're going to buy the car, truck, or a tank, or a bike, or motorcycle, or whatever, if you're going to buy the wheels to make money, you're going to use the car as a cab or a taxi. That's not you're now no longer an operator of the vehicle. You are now referred to as a business. You are a driver. Look it up in the dictionary. A driver means someone who uses wheels to make money. That's why you have to have not an operator's license. You have to have a driver's license. That's why you have truck drivers, bus drivers. You have to have a cab driver, because driver means you're in business to make money. And if you're in business, it means you got to have a license, a business license. So therefore, you have to have a driver's license, because you're using those wheels to make money. It's all very, very open if you just know how to do the research. I've been doing it for over 60 years. I know what I'm talking about. It's an extraordinary world of deception that people get sucked into, not knowing what the words mean, what the symbols mean. It's really quite a story. And so I've been trying to wake people up, and sometimes I do it with interesting little points I've never heard of. Sometimes I have to hit them in the head with some really powerful stuff. But I'm just telling you, you need to do something about your education. You need to understand how your government and the world actually works. You're going to find out it doesn't work the way you think it did.
Right. And, here's an interesting point of view, too. I mean, because, well, quite honestly, a lot of times I realize that those that write things are called authors, and the authority, if you will, that is used by implementing said written rules is something that is just assumed. But I've seen people try to assert that they don't require the license because they're not engaged in commerce, and and that all makes very good sense in my head. But quite honestly, the end result for a lot of people, and I've heard of other results where people have gotten different, again, your results may vary, right? I've heard where people have gotten out of these problems where they don't pay the tickets and they don't go to jail. But I've also seen people go to jail. Of
course.
And at the end of the day, it is the authors who are in control of the rules, and therefore the authority vested in them is something that is exerted regardless of what the logic is. Everything is subject.
That's why judges will tell you. In America, there is no justice. There's just us. Period. So at the end of the day, if you go into court and you have all the documents proving your side, and you got all the proof of your side of the argument, that's not important, because at the end of the day, you still have the wisdom and the knowledge. And at the end of the day, the courts still have the guns and the police, and therefore the powers that be are still empowered. You're not going to change them. They don't give a damn about your research. They don't care about law books. They are a law unto themselves. And in the Bible, it's referred to in the book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, talks about the coming of the man of lawlessness. And I used to wonder, what do you talk about, lawlessness? I mean, in America, we got so many laws, you can't even belch with breaking a law somewhere. And so if you go into any good law library, you'll see thousands and thousands of volumes of law. But the Bible said there would come a time when we would be a people of lawlessness. Well, now I understand it because I'm old, and now I know what that means. It means that no matter what the law says, it's written down in the law, courts don't give a damn about what the law says.
Right.
When you go before a judge in a courtroom, he don't care what the law says. He don't need to read the law. He is the law. Whatever he says it is, that's what it is. If he says you're wrong, you can show him 50 different reference books showing him he's wrong. He don't care. He's the judge. He calls the shots whether you like it or not. And therefore you're not an American. You don't have any rights. You're a U.S. citizen. You're a member of a corporation, and you don't have any rights, period. So that's why when you go to court, you play basketball on a court. That's why a judge wears a black robe. The black robe represents the planet Saturn.
Right.
Well, how many people know that?
See, that's where I was going to go next, is that the game that you're actually playing has a lot more to do with a Saturnarian ritual than it does with anything which is lawful. And again, lawful is not the same as legal.
Right.
There is a tremendous difference between the two. But of course, we don't have time to really break that down tonight, Jordan. But the truth is that, it is, more about the representation of Saturnarian ritual. And the funny thing about those black robes and all that is that, quite frankly, a lot of these individuals who are judges don't realize that the word judge is actually relatable to the word God, and they are the representative thereof. I mean, they're almost the high priest of the Saturnarian ritual, and I bet you never thought about the court where a game is being played with your life usually, is actually just that. You know,
how many people understand the concept? Almost nobody in America would ever even understand what you're talking about. All they know is the judge represents God. This is why the Pope is called the Holy Father. Why is the judge referred to as the Holy Father? Because he represents God. He is the Godfather. Period.
Well, yeah, that is the bottom line. And of course, we see all across the planet that, again, he who has the firepower makes the rules and becomes the author and therefore the authority. And, this is why we are creeping ever closer to a more and more comfort zone laden with authoritarian ritualism, and that is the way it is. But again, guys, I say explore for yourselves. There is a lot to what you were saying tonight, and there's a lot of interesting points that you've made for sure. I am looking forward to the 2-hour plus video that you're making that you were talking about in the first hour, which is going to discuss the origins of man and all the way through the relationship with maybe what is in the heavens above for real.
That's right. That's exactly right. What's really there.
And that is another concept, which again, I gotta say, there was a point in my life where I found some of these things to be laughable until I started to dig into. And I'm being, honest with you, Jordan. The concept of like ancient aliens, it was a joke to me. This idea that, come on, what are you guys doing? You're trying to adapt a modern fantasy into symbology. Of the old world, which you don't understand. And I still stand by the fact that most people that claim to be, Egyptologists know very little about Egypt. I stand by the idea that, a lot of archaeologists are misrepresenting what it is they're finding, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of confusion between.
It's true. And as I have said, so many people who call themselves a scientist are actually a religionist. They have their religion, their standard pat answers to their religious questions and to scientific questions. They have their holy men, they have their saints, they have their holy writings. So-called certain scientists put a book out, and that's the Word of God. It is the absolute truth. And then later on, 10 years later, we find out, no, the guy didn't know what he was talking about. It doesn't work. The world doesn't work the way he thought it did. But we've been following it for 10 years and teaching our children what we thought was the truth. And now we find out none of it was true. The whole thing was all made up. And the science is not a science. It's a religion. It's just the worship of the worship of man's intelligence, the worship of a man's institution.
Well, a religion is merely something you do repeatedly and constantly. You can do anything religiously, so to speak. So let us not forget that, first of all. Second of all, when it comes to science, it's kind of interesting because I was thinking about this, before I started talking to you tonight and didn't think we were going to go here. But let's do it. The reality of that is startling because I have been in the company of people that are studying certain sciences, and when they talk about the latest thing, where someone has, written a diatribe, they've, again, authored the new rules, so to speak, again, almost like the legal society, right? Mm-hmm. They author the new rules. You know what these guys call it a lot of times, or at least used to? That is the new Bible on XYZ, whatever. That is the new Bible on physics. That is the new Bible on, the concept of magnetism. That is the new, and I gotta tell you, it's very, very weird to watch what happens. And, science, as I understood it at one time, used to be based on replicatable, observable, sort of points of agreement.
Yep, you're right.
But that to me is not.
That is not the case.
Yeah. It's odd, isn't it?
Very odd, because that's why we're in such trouble in America and around the world, is we don't have any real scientists. America has a few legitimate and real scientists who are very, very bright, but you're never going to hear from them. They don't have the qualifications to be heard from. They're not allowed to teach in universities. They're not given the credentials of a scientist, and therefore you'll never know what they know. But they have seen the lies and the deception, and that's what I have seen too. I've seen the lies and deception in my face by scientists, people who call themselves scientists. And I've sat with a bunch of scientists who laugh about the idea of some of the things that they have taught in the past that they knew was stupid to start with. And evolution was one of them. Evolution was taught to the world by something called the British East India Company. If you want to understand evolution, look up the word British East India Company. That's where it all started, with the British East India Company. And it was telling the people of the world, you are nobody. Your government is everything. Without your government, you don't have nothing. You're just an imbecilic moron. And you just evolved from a flea, from a cockroach. So you don't have anything to say about nothing. And therefore, the British East India Company promoted this whole idea of evolution. And Charles Darwin worked for the British East India Company. He was an employee. Mm-hmm. And he came out with his, what he called the evolutionary theory. He got it from the British East India Company. People don't know any of this history.
Right.
They have no idea in the world how this corrupt world really works.
Well, see, and that's the thing I want to get to here, and we've only got about 10 minutes left. But I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you for your thoughts on a statement I'm going to make here, and I guarantee you that's going to take up the rest of the time. And because of it, I just want to remind people that you can go to JordanMaxwellShow.com. That is the only website, the only one that is actually Jordan Maxwell's. You can email him there. You can make a contribution. You can join the Research Society. You can observe things, download videos. But that's the only website that is actually Jordan Maxwell's. Just so you know that. I know you see Jordan Maxwell all over the internet. That's the only website that is his, and you got to combine all three words, JordanMaxwellShow.com, in order to get to the only website that is yours, Jordan. So,
That's right.
Here's the thing, and I want to make sure I got that in because this is going to be the big doozy as far as I'm concerned. You know what I see most of what we've talked about tonight as, like, when it comes to the confusions and the misrepresentations of the past and the poor education that is given by the institutions and the pronouncements of government and the decisions to make people misunderstand the words they're using, the desires they have. You know, it's thought of to be a popular and wonderful thing to want democracy. Democracy is mob rule. If you understand it, it's not something anybody really wants. Okay. Let's bottle it in one way very simply. Why does all this happen, Jordan Maxwell? Here is what I think, and I want you to speak to it. I think that all of this is by design to maintain control. And you know why and how they maintain control is by making the masses continuously confused and engaged in things that are fruitless, bottomless, and worthless when it comes to being informed, when it comes to being aware, alert.
And to protect yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how do you protect yourself? You don't even know what's going on. You haven't got the faintest idea how things work.
That's it.
And what the words mean.
That's it. I think that is the point of all of it, is to make sure that you can't protect yourself. You can never stand up and actually, take on the people that are really doing the damage to you on a daily basis. You can never actually get to the root of the problem when it comes to government, when it comes to organizations, corporations. Doesn't matter, because you are so distracted and so filled with a complete rainbow spectrum of disinformation, misinformation, hollow information, and all kinds of things, so that you can't even begin to figure out what's going on around you. So that way you are rendered harmless to the system itself. What do you think about that?
I think that's exactly what's been happening, and that's precisely where we are as a nation today. Americans have no understanding of how law works and what is the difference between a law and a corporation. This is why I say America has no laws. We can't make any laws in America because America is not a government. It's a corporation. And like I said, if you find out that when you get married, it's a corporation. You're founding a business. And because of that, you have to get a license. Why do you have to get a license to get married? Because marriage is considered a corporate operation, a corporation. You are a corporation and she's a corporation. And you're going to get together and might possibly create a new product. Ford Motor Company joins General Motors or General Electric, and now they have a new product. Well, that's fine as long as you got a license to do that kind of thing. So you have to have a license to get married. You have to have a license to drive a car or to drive wheels. All of this is the kind of thing that only a handful of people on the earth will study and live with. In their whole life, they study this stuff. And I've been in the company of these people who are absolute experts on the occult world of laws and words and terms, and never realizing for a moment that it also affects our religious belief systems. Why do we call God the Father? It's because of rain. Because in India, the God the Father was called R-A-I-N. So in the spring, the rains come. And so it's God the Father impregnating Mother Nature, Mother Earth. And so Mother Earth is being impregnated by the rain. And new life comes to Mother Nature, Mother Earth, in the spring rains. And that's why we have a spring wedding. God the Father is marrying Mother Nature, Mother Earth. And this is why churches always have pointed arch windows and pointed arch doors. The pointed arch is of a female symbol. A symbol of the female sexuality is a pointed arch. It's a very interesting world we live in, and I'm amazed at how much we as adults do not know any of it. We don't care about it. It has nothing to do with football, basketball, tennis ball, and all the other silly ball games they give us to play ball. I have never and will never play ball. I'm not playing ball at all. I know what the words mean. I know how this government is run, and I know who set it up and who finances it. And people will never believe when you go on the back of the $1 bill and look at the symbols and ask yourself, how come there's a pyramid on the back of the $1 bill? And it's not called pyramid. It's actually spelled P-Y-R-A. Pyramid. Pyra is a word for fire. Mid means middle. Therefore, a pyramid is referred to as the fire in the middle. Pyramid. And this is why when you go to any big news store or any public places like restaurants and hotels, and you go to the men's room, you'll always see a triangle, a pyramid. You go to the women's restroom, you'll see a circle. Represents Stonehenge in England, the magic circle. And therefore the word pyramid means fire in the middle. Why? Because it's the fire of sex is in the middle of the male body. And we have songs like that, Baby Light My Fire. The fire of sex is in the middle of the human male body, and that's why it's called a pyramid. And that's why it's a symbol of a pyramid is on the male restrooms in big public buildings. There's just so much to learn. I've been doing this for 60 years, and once you go through for 60 and you end up at 80 years old, understanding, questioning everything, where the words come from, the ideas and the concepts, it will finally occur to you, you have no idea in the world how this world really works.
Fair
enough. That's
enough.
why you're in trouble.
And that is the state in which they wish to keep you.
That's exactly right.
So,
you're going to stay right there.
So that is the overall point. And of course, we could continue this conversation for the next 3 days, but we are at the end, so I'm going to remind you once again, you the listener, that is, not you, Jordan Maxwell, but you the listener, that if you go to jordanmaxwellshow.com, that is a website where you can continue this type of education as well, but also support, message Jordan directly if you like. It's the only website that is his, jordanmaxwellshow.com. So I do look forward to having you back on when you get this video done. And we'll discuss the particulars of it when I actually see what you're putting together, because I haven't seen all this. I know that. And,
wait till you see what I'm doing and see it with your own eyes.
Of course. That's what I'm waiting to do.
You will know what I'm talking about.
Right. And the last thing is that, is there any place where we can see you getting that Lifetime Achievement Award at this, big conference that just happened?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's on the web.
Okay, so is it on YouTube or
put it on the web?
Okay,
and this is Jordan Maxwell 2020 UFO Mega Conference.
That's it. Okay, so the 2020 Mega Conference UFO Jordan Maxwell. If you put that into a search engine, you ought to be able to find the video.
And show you the whole hour of the dinner and the banquet and the award show and all the people that know me around the world who came to talk and to thank me for my work, etc. is all right there. And it shows the award and the whole thing. It's all on the web already.
That's it. So, guys, like I said, jordanmaxwellshow.com is Jordan Maxwell's website. It's the only one that's his, actually. Just so you know. And the Ocelli Effect is done. Coming up next on the network here will be The Age of Transitions with Aaron Franz, which I got to hang up with Jordan here really quick and get to start producing. So the Ocelli Effect is done, the week of broadcasts is done, and next week we'll have a full slate of everything going on. And we'll talk to Jordan sometime again in the next couple of months to get an update on this video for sure. And hopefully when it releases, we'll be among the first to speak with him. So thank you again, Jordan, for being on. And
thank you, my friend, for allowing me to be on and inviting me to be on the show. Thank you very much for your generosity in inviting me to be on.
Always a privilege, Jordan. Everybody, good night.
Carmine Savastano, Human Time Bomb, The Violence Within Our Nature, poses significant questions and considers the evidence that violence shapes the past and present. Author and Professor David T. Beato calls it an impressive tour de force. Savastano shows a mastery of relevant work in biology, anthropology, and intelligence. Each chapter will challenge readers to rethink old assumptions. Doctor of Psychology R. Blackstock notes, "It is a long, hard look into the potency of our collective shadow that is extremely relevant in today's socio-political climate." Historian and author Larry Hancock declares, "This work is a slap on the back of the head, a wake-up call, and a serious reality check as to the true human condition." Order your digital and print copies now on Amazon.com. For more information, visit tpaak.com.